Thank you for visiting the Miltenberger Law Offices YouTube channel and our website. We are a proven criminal defense law firm in Nebraska, with over 1,000 cases handled and over 12 years of combined legal experience. Our firm has created these audio articles to help educate you on your rights, protect your freedom, and help you achieve the best solution for the charges you are facing. If we are hired for your case, we will never back down, no matter the odds. Fraud lawyer in Omaha, Nebraska. Most fraud cases in Omaha don't begin with flashing lights, high-speed police chases, or dramatic arrests. Instead, they often begin with a phone call from a detective, a letter from your bank, an employer asking questions about missing funds, a notice that your financial records have been subpoenaed, or an unexpected warrant months after a transaction you barely remember. By the time many people realize they are under investigation, law enforcement may already have interviewed witnesses, collected bank records, reviewed surveillance footage, and analyzed digital evidence. Being accused of fraud can be overwhelming. Your reputation, career, finances, and future may all be at risk, even before formal charges are filed. But an accusation is not a conviction. At Miltenberger Law Offices, we defend individuals accused of fraud offenses throughout Omaha and across Nebraska. Whether you are being investigated for credit card fraud, identity theft, forgery, check fraud, insurance fraud, or another financial offense, we work to protect your rights and build the strongest defense possible. If you have been arrested or believe you are under investigation, call 402-217-2267 or contact us online for a confidential consultation with an experienced Omaha fraud defense lawyer. What is fraud under Nebraska law? Fraud is not one single criminal offense in Omaha or elsewhere in Nebraska. Rather, it describes a wide variety of crimes involving deception, false representations, or dishonest conduct intended to obtain money, property, services, or another benefit. Some fraud cases involve only a few $100s. Others involve thousands. Some accusations arise between complete strangers. Others involve family members, employers, co-workers, business partners, or former romantic partners. Regardless of the circumstances, prosecutors generally must prove more than simply showing that money changed hands or someone suffered a financial loss. Most fraud-related offenses require proof that the accused intentionally engaged in deceptive conduct. Mistakes happen. Accounting errors occur. People misunderstand agreements. Bank records can be incomplete. Unauthorized users sometimes access financial accounts without the owner's knowledge. The government must prove criminal intent, not merely poor judgment, negligence, or an unfortunate financial dispute. Because fraud offenses often involve extensive financial records and digital evidence, these cases frequently require a detailed review of documents, electronic communications, banking activity, surveillance footage, and witness testimony. Common fraud charges in Omaha, Nebraska. Fraud investigations take many different forms. Some begin after a bank detects suspicious activity. Others originate from complaints filed by retailers, employers, insurance companies, government agencies, or individual victims. Many investigations remain active for weeks or months before anyone is arrested. Some of the more common fraud-related offenses prosecuted in Omaha and across Nebraska include credit card and debit card fraud. Nebraska Revised Statutes, Section 28-619. Identity theft. Nebraska Revised Statute, Section 28-639. Identity fraud. Nebraska Revised Statute, Section 28-640. Forgery. Nebraska Revised Statute Sections 280-602, 280, 28-603. Check fraud. Nebraska Revised Statute, Section 28-611. Financial transaction device crimes. Nebraska Revised Statute, Sections 28-620, 28-621. Possession of forged instruments. Nebraska Revised Statute, Section 28-604. Insurance fraud. Nebraska Revised Statute, Section 44-6604. Online marketplace scams. Counterfeit currency offenses. Bad checks. Public assistance fraud. Unemployment fraud. SNAP and EBT fraud. Retail refund fraud. Mail theft involving financial information. Although these offenses involve different statutes, many investigations rely on similar types of evidence, including financial records, surveillance video, electronic communications, digital account activity, and witness interviews. The strength of that evidence, not simply the accusation itself, often determines how a case proceeds. Common cases our Omaha fraud defense attorneys handle include credit card and debit card fraud in Omaha. Credit card fraud has become increasingly common as more purchases occur online and through electronic payment systems. These investigations often begin after a bank, retailer, or card issuer notices unusual activity on an account. Law enforcement may then attempt to identify who used the card, where purchases occurred, and whether the transactions were authorized. Common allegations include using another person's credit card without permission, using stolen debit card information, making unauthorized online purchases, possessing stolen card numbers, using counterfeit payment cards, making purchases after finding a lost card, using another person's digital wallet or payment account. Not every unauthorized transaction is criminal fraud. Family members sometimes share financial accounts. Former spouses may continue using cards after separation. Friends may disagree over whether permission was given. Businesses occasionally process duplicate transactions or make billing mistakes. Digital evidence alone does not always identify the individual who completed a purchase. Investigators may rely upon surveillance footage, merchant records, shipping information, IP addresses, text messages, receipts, and account histories to build their case. Our defense team carefully examines whether prosecutors can actually connect the alleged transaction to the accused and prove that the use was both unauthorized and intentional. Identity theft and identity fraud in Omaha. Identity theft is one of the fastest-growing financial crimes in the United States. Modern investigations often involve far more than stolen driver's licenses or Social Security numbers. Personal identifying information can now be obtained through data breaches, phishing scams, stolen mail, hacked accounts, or even shared electronic devices. Identity-related allegations may involve using another person's identifying information, opening financial accounts under another name, obtaining loans or credit cards through false information, employment-related identity fraud, tax-related identity theft, using another person's identification during a traffic stop, creating or possessing fraudulent identification documents. Identity theft investigations frequently involve extensive digital evidence. Police may review computers, mobile phones, email accounts, cloud storage, internet browsing history, and financial records while attempting to determine who accessed or used certain information. Simply finding identifying information on a computer or inside a residence does not automatically establish criminal responsibility. Multiple people may share devices. Electronic accounts may be compromised. Digital records can sometimes be incomplete or misleading. An effective defense requires carefully examining both the technology and the timeline underlying the prosecution's allegations. Forgery and check fraud in Omaha. Forgery generally involves creating, altering, completing, or using a document with the intent to deceive another person. While many people associate forgery with counterfeit checks, the offense can involve numerous types of documents. Common allegations include signing another person's name without authorization, altering the amount or payee on a check, passing counterfeit checks, using forged money orders, creating false financial documents, possessing forged checks, using falsified signatures on contracts or applications. Check fraud cases often arise after banks identify suspicious deposits or businesses report forged or altered checks. Investigators may compare handwriting samples, review surveillance footage from financial institutions, analyze account histories, and obtain bank transaction records. Some cases involve allegations that a person knowingly passed a forged check. Others involve disputes over authorization, ownership, or whether someone else altered the document after it was signed. The prosecution must establish more than the existence of a forged document. It must also prove who created, possessed, or used the document and whether the accused acted with the intent required under Nebraska law. Financial transaction device crimes in Omaha. Many fraud investigations involve the alleged unlawful use of payment cards or other financial transaction devices. While people often think only of stolen credit cards, Nebraska law covers a much broader range of conduct involving payment methods and financial accounts. Investigators may allege that someone knowingly possessed, transferred, used, or trafficked in financial transaction devices or account information without authorization. These cases may involve possessing another person's debit or credit card, using stored payment information without permission, using account numbers obtained through data breaches, selling or transferring stolen account information, using counterfeit payment cards, possessing multiple cards belonging to different individuals, making unauthorized electronic purchases. Many investigations rely almost entirely on electronic records, bank transaction histories, merchant records, IP addresses, cell phone location data, online account activity. Although digital evidence can be valuable, it is not always conclusive. An IP address does not necessarily identify who was sitting behind a keyboard. A payment account may be shared among family members. Electronic devices may be lost, stolen, borrowed, or accessed by multiple people. Our Omaha fraud defense lawyers carefully review the government's digital evidence to determine whether it truly identifies the accused or merely suggests someone using the same device or account completed the transaction. Benefit fraud in Omaha. Government assistance programs provide important support for many Nebraska families. Unfortunately, mistakes involving applications, reporting requirements, or eligibility can sometimes result in criminal investigations. Benefit fraud cases commonly involve allegations relating to electronic benefit transfer, EBT cards, unemployment benefits, SNAP or food assistance benefits, Medicaid eligibility, housing assistance programs, temporary financial assistance, failure to report income or household changes. Some investigations begin after automated computer systems identify discrepancies between reported income and employment records. Others result from anonymous complaints or routine audits performed by government agencies. Not every discrepancy is criminal fraud. Applications can contain mistakes. Income may fluctuate from month to month. Recipients may misunderstand complicated reporting requirements. A person who unintentionally provides inaccurate information is not necessarily guilty of intentionally defrauding a government program. The prosecution must still prove the required criminal intent. Depending on the circumstances, these cases may involve both repayment demands and criminal allegations, making experienced legal representation in Omaha especially important. Insurance fraud in Omaha. Insurance companies investigate thousands of claims every year. When adjusters believe a claim contains inaccurate information, they may refer the matter to law enforcement for further investigation. Insurance fraud allegations may involve automobile accident claims, property damage claims, fire losses, workers' compensation claims, medical reimbursement claims, personal property claims, false documentation submitted during the claims process. Insurance companies often conduct extensive investigations before contacting law enforcement. Adjusters may review surveillance footage, interview witnesses, inspect damaged property, examine repair estimates, compare prior claims, and analyze social media activity. In some situations, legitimate disagreements over the value of damaged property or the cause of a loss evolve into allegations of fraud. Simply because an insurance company questions a claim does not automatically establish criminal conduct. Our fraud defense team based in Omaha examines whether investigators reached reasonable conclusions and whether prosecutors can actually prove that any alleged misrepresentation was made knowingly and with the intent to deceive. Internet and online marketplace fraud in Omaha. Modern fraud investigations increasingly involve online transactions. As more people buy, sell, and transfer money electronically, allegations involving internet marketplaces and payment applications have become far more common. Investigations may involve Facebook marketplace transactions, Craigslist sales, eBay listings, PayPal disputes, Venmo transfers, Cash App transactions, Zelle payments, online auction sites, cryptocurrency transfers, gift card scams. Unlike traditional fraud cases, online investigations often rely heavily on digital evidence. Investigators may subpoena account records, internet service provider information, payment histories, IP logs, email records, and messaging applications. Online disputes do not always involve criminal fraud. A package may be lost during shipping. A buyer may dispute the quality of an item. A payment may be reversed after a misunderstanding. An online account may be compromised by another individual. Because electronic transactions often occur between people who have never met, identifying the person actually responsible becomes one of the central issues in many investigations. How fraud investigations are built in Omaha. Unlike assault or theft cases, fraud investigations often develop quietly over weeks or months before anyone is arrested. Law enforcement may spend considerable time gathering records before ever contacting a suspect. By the time an arrest occurs, investigators may have already reviewed thousands of pages of financial documents. Depending on the allegations, investigators may collect bank records, credit card statements, electronic payment histories, business records, employment records, tax documents, surveillance video, cell phone records, email communications, text messages, social media accounts, computer files, search warrant returns, witness interviews, merchant transaction records. Investigators may also execute search warrants at homes, businesses, or offices while seizing computers, mobile phones, tablets, financial records, and other electronic devices. Because these cases often involve significant amounts of documentation, investigators sometimes develop theories long before reviewing every piece of available evidence. Our Omaha criminal defense team independently evaluates the government's investigation rather than assuming investigators reach the correct conclusions. We review financial records in context, examine digital evidence, identify missing information, and determine whether the government's theory accurately reflects what actually occurred. What prosecutors must prove in an Omaha fraud case. Although every fraud offense has its own legal elements, prosecutors generally must establish more than the existence of a questionable financial transaction. They must prove that the accused committed conduct prohibited by Nebraska law and did so with the required criminal intent. Depending on the offense, prosecutors may be required to prove the accused knowingly made a false representation. The representation was material to the transaction. The accused intended to deceive another person or organization. Money, property, services, or another benefit was obtained or attempted. The accused was the individual responsible for the conduct. The value involved satisfies any statutory requirements. Intent is frequently the most heavily contested issue. Financial mistakes, bookkeeping errors, misunderstandings, unauthorized account access, and poor business practices do not automatically establish criminal fraud. Likewise, suspicious circumstances alone are not enough. The government bears the burden of proving every required element beyond a reasonable doubt. Our role is to carefully examine whether the evidence actually supports those allegations or whether important questions remain unanswered. Common defenses to fraud charges in Omaha. Fraud cases are often more complicated than they first appear. Unlike many criminal offenses, these investigations frequently involve thousands of pages of financial records, months of electronic communications, and transactions that may have occurred long before anyone contacted law enforcement. Because prosecutors must prove every element of the offense, there are numerous defenses that may apply depending on the facts of the case. Our skilled Omaha fraud defense lawyers have used many defense strategies to prove the innocence of Nebraskans over the last 4+ decades, including lack of intent. A financial mistake, bookkeeping error, or misunderstanding does not automatically become a crime simply because someone lost money. If prosecutors cannot establish that the accused intentionally attempted to deceive another person or organization, they may be unable to prove a fraud offense. Mistaken identity. Many modern fraud investigations rely heavily on electronic evidence. However, the fact that a transaction originated from a particular device or internet connection does not necessarily identify the individual responsible. Shared computers, family accounts, compromised passwords, and stolen devices may all create reasonable doubt regarding who actually completed the transaction. Authorization or consent. Some fraud allegations arise after disagreements between family members, former spouses, roommates, business partners, or co-workers. In certain cases, the accused reasonably believed they had permission to use an account, make purchases, sign documents, or access financial information. Determining whether authorization existed often requires examining the parties' relationship and prior course of conduct. Insufficient evidence. Suspicion alone is never enough. The government must present reliable evidence connecting the accused to the alleged offense. If investigators rely on incomplete financial records, unreliable witness testimony, or speculative conclusions, those weaknesses should be thoroughly challenged. Illegal searches and seizures. Fraud investigations frequently involve search warrants for homes, businesses, computers, mobile phones, and financial records. If investigators violated constitutional protections while obtaining evidence, the defense may seek to suppress that evidence before trial. Accounting errors or honest mistakes. Businesses and individuals make mistakes every day. Duplicate transactions, data entry errors, incorrect invoices, bookkeeping issues, and clerical mistakes do not automatically establish criminal conduct. In some cases, what initially appears suspicious may ultimately be explained through a careful review of financial records. Failure to prove value. For many fraud offenses, the amount allegedly involved affects both the severity of the charge and the potential penalties. If prosecutors cannot accurately establish the value involved, the appropriate charge, or even the existence of a criminal offense may be subject to challenge. Penalties for fraud convictions in Nebraska. The penalties for fraud-related offenses vary, depending on the specific statute involved, the value of the alleged loss, the defendant's criminal history, and the circumstances surrounding the accusation. Some cases may result in misdemeanor charges, while others may be prosecuted as felonies carrying the possibility of significant prison time. Potential consequences of a fraud conviction include jail or prison sentences, substantial fines, probation, court-ordered restitution, community service, loss of professional licenses, difficulty obtaining employment, damage to personal and professional reputation, restrictions on future financial opportunities, a permanent criminal record. Even when incarceration is avoided, the long-term effects of a fraud conviction can extend well beyond the courtroom. Employers frequently conduct background checks. Professional licensing boards may review criminal convictions. Financial institutions may become reluctant to extend credit. For many individuals, these collateral consequences are just as significant as the sentence imposed by the court. What should you do if you're being investigated for fraud in Omaha, Nebraska? Many people make critical mistakes before charges are ever filed. Investigators may contact you unexpectedly and suggest they simply want to hear your side of the story. While cooperation may seem like the easiest way to clear up a misunderstanding, statements made during an investigation can later become important evidence. Do not answer investigators' questions without legal counsel. You have a constitutional right to remain silent. Use it. Politely declining an interview until you have spoken with an attorney is not an admission of guilt. Preserve financial records. Keep bank statements, receipts, contracts, emails, invoices, and other financial documents. These records may ultimately help explain transactions that investigators misunderstand. Do not delete electronic information. Avoid deleting emails, text messages, financial records, or files from your computer or mobile phone. Destroying potential evidence may create additional legal problems. Avoid discussing the investigation. Do not discuss the allegations with co-workers, alleged victims, witnesses, or on social media. Statements made outside of court can still be used during the investigation or at trial. Contact an experienced fraud defense attorney. Early legal representation may allow your Omaha fraud attorney to communicate with investigators, evaluate the evidence, preserve important records, and begin developing your defense before formal charges are filed. Fraud resources in Omaha, Nebraska. The following official resources provide additional information regarding Nebraska criminal laws, courts, and consumer fraud investigations. Nebraska.gov. Make Sense. Make Sense website. See pertinent information from the Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance, most notably how to fight back against credit card and debit card fraud. Nebraska Legislature Online Database. Search Nebraska statutes related to fraud, forgery, identity theft, financial transaction devices, and other criminal offenses. Nebraska Judicial Branch website. Court procedures, forms, and information about Nebraska's court system. Douglas County District Court website. Court information for felony criminal cases in Omaha and Douglas County. Nebraska Attorney General Consumer Protection Division website. Consumer fraud resources, reporting information, and public education materials. Nebraska State Patrol. Criminal investigations and public safety resources. FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, also known as IC3 website. Information regarding Internet-related fraud and cybercrime. Frequently asked questions about fraud charges in Omaha, Nebraska. Can I be charged with fraud in Omaha even if I never received any money? Answer: yes. Depending on the specific offense, prosecutors may pursue charges based on an alleged attempt to obtain money, property, or another benefit through deceptive conduct. Will paying the money back make the case go away? Answer: not necessarily. Restitution may help resolve certain financial disputes, but repayment alone does not automatically prevent criminal prosecution. Can I be charged because someone else used my computer in Omaha? Answer: investigators must prove who actually committed the alleged offense. Shared devices and compromised accounts often become important issues in fraud cases. What if I made an honest mistake? Answer: many fraud offenses require proof that you intentionally acted to deceive another person. Honest mistakes, misunderstandings, or accounting errors may provide important defenses. Should I speak with bank investigators? Answer: before answering questions from investigators or providing statements, it is generally advisable to consult with an Omaha fraud attorney who can protect your rights. Can fraud charges be reduced or dismissed in Nebraska? Answer: depending on the evidence, some cases may be dismissed, reduced, or resolved through negotiated agreements. Every case depends on its own facts. How long do fraud investigations usually last? Answer: some investigations conclude within weeks, while others continue for months before charges are filed. Financial investigations often require extensive document review. Will I lose my professional license if I'm convicted anywhere in Nebraska? Answer: some licensed professionals may face disciplinary action after certain criminal convictions. The consequences depend on the profession and the nature of the offense. Can text messages and emails be used against me? Answer: yes. Electronic communications frequently become important evidence in fraud investigations. When should I hire a lawyer? Answer: as soon as you learn you are under investigation or have been charged. Early legal representation can be critical in protecting your rights and developing an effective defense. Why choose Miltenberger Law Offices to defend fraud in Omaha? Fraud cases are document-intensive and evidence-driven. Successfully defending these charges often requires far more than simply reviewing a police report. At Miltenberger Law Offices, we carefully examine every aspect of the government's case, including financial records, digital communications, transaction histories, surveillance footage, and witness statements. We understand that accusations involving fraud often arise from complex financial situations, misunderstandings, disputed business relationships, or incomplete investigations. Our goal is to identify weaknesses in the prosecution's evidence, protect your constitutional rights, and pursue the best possible outcome, whether through dismissal, reduced charges, negotiation, or trial. Speak with a Miltenberger Law Omaha fraud lawyer today. Many fraud investigations in the Omaha area involve misunderstandings, disputed transactions, bookkeeping mistakes, mistaken identity, family financial disputes, or allegations that prosecutors ultimately cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt. If you have been arrested for fraud or believe you are under investigation, do not wait for law enforcement to build its case before seeking legal advice. Early representation can make a meaningful difference in protecting your rights, preserving important evidence, and avoiding costly mistakes. Miltenberger Law Offices represents clients throughout Omaha and across Nebraska facing allegations involving identity theft, credit card fraud, forgery, check fraud, insurance fraud, benefit fraud, online fraud, and other financial crimes. Call 4022-172267 right away or contact us online to schedule a confidential consultation with an experienced Omaha fraud defense attorney. The sooner we become involved, the sooner we can begin protecting your future. Miltenberger Law Offices is a leading criminal defense law firm serving the entire state of Nebraska. We are headquartered in Omaha and serve Douglas County, Lancaster County, Lincoln, Sarpy County, and all of Nebraska. We look forward to helping you with your criminal defense attorney needs.